I'm Lola.
And I'm Mamuna. Together, we have a combined 35 years of experience within the tech scene in North America and Europe.
We talk about the highs, the lows, the WTFs of navigating the technology industry and answer your questions about navigating tech careers.
This is Lost in Tech.
I feel like everybody, you hear a friend and they just do one cough, but it's a hacking, horrible, phlegmy. It's like in their chest. And it's like, have you got a cough? It's like, nah, just been here for 6 months. It's fine.
It's just hanging,
walking around.
Hanging. It's my bud, Larry. Don't worry about it.
Oh, it's good. Larry the cough. Okay, so, I mean, we're late because everyone has done this to death, but we're going to do it anyway because we have fresh perspective.
Yes, we do.
Mamuna, OpenAI. WTF. Because hot mess, hot of hottest messes doesn't even begin. You know, I feel like we've touched on this a couple of times, but like you always get the sense that like you grow up and then there are these big businesses that manage real money and they're also formal and they're professional and they know what they're doing and like really serious people working them. And then you get a story like this and you're like,
is that really the case? Are you professional?
My life, my messiness,
right.
It just happens to be happening at a smaller financial circle, but it's just as messy. Like this is just as messy. Okay. What's your take?
I mean, I have many. I think first off, I found it very interesting as we looked at the coverage, how there was a lot not being said.
Yes.
Like, same bits of information were being repeated.
Yes.
But if you were trying to get the actual facts and reasoning, that was where you would sort of find dead ends. But you could nonstop, you would hear people's perspectives around like how smart he is, how the company's structure, generally about like the board and their decisions, but not the whys.
Yes.
You never got into the whys. And I found that just very interesting. The more I searched, the less I found.
So fascinating. Because if we think about the way cults develop around tech founders, the cult around Sam Altman tells me nothing about what he might be like. We can give you personality rundown on Bill Gates. We can give you personality rundowns on Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, even Satya Nadella. You know, people will describe their personalities. I haven't heard enough about anyone who actually knows Sam. So I don't understand where he actually is coming from. That's one thing. But then the thing for me that's like, to your point of like, we don't really know what happened is, it's like the level of governance fail that this has actually resulted in is so problematic as a precedent. It's like the idea of a board is to check what you don't know when you're running a company, especially when the stakes are high. So when the board, and I don't want to share an opinion, maybe they failed. Maybe they didn't. Maybe, like we said, we don't actually know what they were reacting to. So maybe they saw some shit that we're like, whoa, it's going to come out. And we're like, they were right. But that you would sack, then attempt to rehire, fail, then go back on your word, then actually rehire your CEO in the space of like 5-6 days. I'm sorry, but like the level of governance fail it's too high. The sheer incompetence feels smelly, right? It just seems wrong.
It does. It definitely does. I think what's interesting is if you take a step back, and I haven't done enough research on this, so forgive me, but you think about what was the intention of the structure?
Yes.
Right? So you say, okay, hey, we're putting the structure in place to prevent or to support or to prevent or support something, right? Like, we think that this is the best structure possible.
Yeah.
And then now on the other side of it, we see that's this failure. So it's like, okay, what actually happened there, right? Like, what were the wins? What were the losses? What are the potential learnings? Because I saw like in an interview Sam did yesterday or so, he was talking about, you know, we were thinking about changing the structure of the board, but that'll take some time. So it's like, okay, but okay, first, why was it put in the way it was put in? Because it's a nonprofit board, nonprofit company.
No, it's they are the board as of the non-profit, which has control of the profit-making.
Right. Yeah. So even the intention there, right, seems a bit misaligned because the board, it feels like the board is very focused on like the altruistic sort of, here's that high thing that we want to hold ourselves to, like the better of AI. Yeah. And the company has to make money because it's expensive. They have to pay people to do these things. How does that work?
Okay, but that was the intention. Yes. So this is what I mean about like where the fail is at, right? So the intention. So let's zoom out. You have tech that you think could change the world and without question impact humanity. And you know, if we haven't already, we should have had the. I'm pretty sure we've recorded an episode where I'm like, I am scared as hell of AI because if you were learning from data, you're biased against me, right? Like my entire being is already negatively impacted if every decision you make is based on some kind of learning algorithm. So that's number one. So their whole thing was this technology could be so powerful. We do not want it to purely have commercial governance. Great. We don't just want a board of people who know how to make money and report to shareholders. Great. We're going to get a board of people whose priority is not to own any shares in the company or make money in the company, but to make sure the technology is made well. I love it. I absolutely love it. That is exactly how we could do it. The fail for me is the first time that shit got tested, it failed.
Yes, exactly.
And then
that means they're like the intention and the actuality, they are not aligned.
It did not work. And it's like, where did the naivety creep in? Because I think one of the clear threads that came out, and everyone's been talking about this positioning of making money versus safety. Let's even ignore making money. I think one of the clear points of tension was the cost of development. This company has been hiring the most expensive, most prominent engineers. Like they know they've got to pay for the best to build this tech, and that's not cheap. And so they had to go get money to keep going. And that's where the chasm started, because it's not even about making that money back. We already have a history of startups that have never made money, aka Twitter, Uber, whatever. They're still big, still not making profit, still running the show. But it's actually maintaining the cost and the burn and who has deep enough pockets to pay for that and to keep doing that I think that's where the beginning of the issue with governance came in, because you can't not be beholden to somebody who's going to pay enough. And Elon left because he thought it was going too slow, apparently, like the pace of development. And part of that is like, there's only so much money I'm going to give you before you're showing me results. And that tension, I think so.
Do you think that it's board? Do you think it's the people on the board?
No, I think it's the naivety of the people on the board. So if you're tasked with applying a control oversight around a problem space that has negative impact,
right? And
you're saying, okay, I don't want to be profit driven. Fine, don't be profit driven, but don't be naive about what it costs.
Right. So I think what we're saying here is that the naivety of the people on the board potentially led to a structure that was put into place that would not actually hold up.
No. I think the structure might have worked. I actually still don't. I don't necessarily want to criticize the structure. It's more like, so the claim was in the first press release, Sam Altman was hiding things from them. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm imagining, I have no details, no data. I was not in the room when it happened. But I'm imagining conversations may have taken place where somebody had to represent what an investor needed to see. Here is what needs to happen. Here's what we need to do. This is what they are asking for and pushing for. And in that room, the board were like, we don't care about profit-seeking entities. We care about the tech. And I think that is naive, because you cannot disregard that issue when you need to pay engineers Right. You need to pay for computation. There's a
Yeah.
reason quantum computing still isn't mainstream, because it's bloody expensive. Like,
Yep.
so I think it's the structure, maybe the structure would have worked if you had
But the
had people in
had
the
to come to
room
terms
who really
with
had to come to
reality.
terms with, okay, we definitely want to pursue the safety agenda. We definitely want to pursue this humanist agenda, but there is reality. And my sense is like whatever Sam wasn't telling them was because he didn't feel like they'd understand the business of maintaining the business, not necessarily because he was trying to sell it for any cost. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
What I'm curious of right now is I think they brought on like Larry Summers.
Yeah.
Who's the other person? The Brett Taylor, I think the former Salesforce CEO, and the Quora CEO stayed on, I think, from the last board. And then Microsoft has a non-voting seat, I think it was.
Yeah.
And so
I feel
with
like,
this group,
go on.
what's that gonna? I mean, that mix is very different because Larry Summers is, steeped in the political finance space, makes healthy amount of money, sitting on boards, doing talks, and so very comfortable with money. I don't know much about Brett Taylor actually, as like what he's been doing.
I miss something. I feel like I'm still, I feel like this new board represents people who have experience running very large organizations with, billions of dollars of throughput, cost management, whatever. But where I think this board does still fail then is there is still this question of, is this tech safe?
Well, this is a huge sway to the other side now. So
this
they
is
had
too far to the other side. Yeah.
A lot of academics on the other board.
Right. Now they've just got business people. I'm like, where do you find someone with the kind of experience to balance those two things? And I'm like, maybe they need to go get someone who's been in senior leadership at the UN. It's like not for profit, multiple countries, political organization, but humanist agenda. Like it's actually not just the tech. It's like understanding that decisions at that scale around this kind of tech have massive implications. And I don't know that business leaders and tech business leaders are used to weighing up that kind of dilemma, even if they understand the financial concerns.
Non-diverse board, right?
I mean, that goes without saying.
And and so you have one perspective in the room.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, I was literally thinking about it yesterday, and I was like, I mean, I don't know if anyone would consider someone, but like, who's the chief finance person at the UN? Maybe they need to be a part of this conversation. Maybe they need to be the people who actually like negotiate between governments with very different agendas and try and come up with treaties and policies that are like human centric. Like one of those voices in the room probably wouldn't be a bad thing as a governance mechanism, because we do need that tension to be held between like, is this technology good? And am I seeing enough that's good? Or are they applying enough scrutiny to safeguards?
That had started me thinking about, within OpenAI, I'm sure they have a lot of ambition outside of ChatGPT, right? And so what directionally are they really trying to move towards? Like this ChatGPT could just be the start of a larger path, right? And so, I mean, it's interesting that they're picks for the board. I wonder if that helps unlock whatever it is they're trying to move towards.
Well, there was another podcast that I listened to with Sam Altman, Hard Fork, which was recorded a couple of days before he was ousted initially. And he said the thing out loud that I think most of us are really scared of, that was very clear on intentions. He was pretty much like, I want to be in a position where we could have the AI do certain jobs for you with confidence that it would get it mostly right. Like that's what they want to do. And that's eliminating jobs from the economy. And, you know, the thing that everybody's scared of is like, this is going to take away employment. They're very intentionally moving towards that because it would be a sign that the technology has evolved to solve complex problems in the way the human brain would. Because even now, as powerful as it is, it's still not as smart as the average 13-year-old.
Right.
But if it can take a job, then it would be. And so the way to describe it is like, what are all these jobs that we could fully automate with confidence? And like, he didn't position it this way, and he's very cautious not to say anything that seems like alarmist. But I heard it that way. I was like, yeah, if you feel like you're building great tech, you've got to identify the point at which that tech is best described or best expressed. And the fact that it could replace a human is ultimately it. That's scary.
That's crazy. And there are no longer any board members that have
Maybe there are.
any.
Maybe there are. Because the other thing that I heard that was interesting, again, I don't know what that means, is Sam in that same Hard Fork episode described his expectations of government regulation, right? It's like, it sounded like the regulation attempts that are happening right now aren't actually good enough for anyone. They're not good enough to govern what they're doing. They're not good enough, but they would serve to stifle innovation in the space. And so he's like, it doesn't make sense to do it that way. You kind of have to redesign this regulation so that it does actually govern without stifling innovation. I'm like, okay, so he's willing to entertain this balance and this thing. And I'm like, maybe one of the things to offer up on the table is like, we will use AI in such a way that it does not remove a proportion of jobs from the economy. Like there's almost like maybe there's a quota system. There's a way of, it could, but it won't, because we need people to be employed, because we need companies to have a proportion of their staff.
How do you actually enforce that?
In the same way you do every other regulation now. Like if you're a company in the US and you've got more than 500 employees, you have a bunch of regulations that you kick into, you have no choice but to meet. Yeah. And so you kind of create this scaled method of saying, okay, if you're a small company, fine, we won't penalize you for these things, but you hit a certain size, you are obligated to hire real people. Yeah. And maybe it's up to you what the real people jobs are versus the AI jobs. Yeah. And then there might be another consideration there, or a proportion of people employed in a particular category of skill that can be AI versus human. Like it starts becoming like a quota system like that. But to me, that's probably something that has to be on the table.
Yeah, I think that's like the bare minimum, right? Otherwise, it would probably pretty rapidly. Because I would imagine companies who are looking to cut cost, they're not going to care about whether or not there's the job numbers go up or down. They're just going to say, hey, we were able to reduce costs and our shareholders potentially are happy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
A question for you and Michael, I guess, is like, are you still having success using ChatGPT? Because I tell you, 6 months on from when we first recorded that other episode talking about it, I still struggle. It's not good enough for me. I do not use it for anything.
It doesn't do it for me, but my husband uses it.
Really?
A lot.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot. But I think he's like super smart with it, because he can produce like this like coloring book of our son or like coloring image of our son with like a photo. I was like, oh, that's cool. It's like he's very creative with it, which is really interesting. So I find that he's able to find like creative balance with it. So I always like lean over his shoulder and kind of see what he's doing, which is really cool. But I'm inspired to want to, but I often find that I could just do whatever I'm trying to do myself personally.
I use it for complex math. For me, I have a position where I'm paid a salary and a commission. So my commission is based on the stuff that, it happens with the business. So I fed a lot of the commission band information in, being very careful not to give identifying information.
Well, this is the challenge. Yeah, exactly.
This is the challenge. And now that it's in there, I just always go back to the ChatGPT section where I've given it that information. And I'm like, well, what if I make X in sales? What if I make X and Y in sales? And it's helped to, just kind of spit out the answer.
Oh, that's cool.
That's actually quite a smart use case. I might look into that because I think, I tried to use it recently. I was doing and clearly this is a training thing, and I actually believe it would have helped if I had been patient enough with it. But I'm one of those people who thinks I know what I need to do in Excel, right? So I was working on pricing, a product pricing, and I was looking at there's like a top-down version where I'd got, 20 different companies and benchmarked their pricing. And then there was a bottom-up view, which is here are all of our costs and here's what I needed to do. And the question I was asking is I now have my break-even point because this is how much it costs us to do this thing. If I have these prices, how many customers do I need at each price point for me to break even and then make my, 80% gross profit target or whatever? And so I'm like, I could probably work this out in a formula or something in Excel and do some kind of lookup and calculation. I was like, let me give this to ChatGPT. And I spent 25 minutes trying to write this prompt. And it just, it was wrong. And it kept giving me these really stupid answers. And I was like, I could have spent that same time in Excel and I know I would have nailed. Yeah, I would have nailed. And so I was just like, it's not ready for me. Would I have bought that prompt? Maybe. If somebody had prepared a prompt that did that thing, I might have been like, hey, I'm going to pay a fee and I'm just going to grab that prompt and I've got confidence it works. Good-o. I'll do that. But trying to work it out myself, I was just like, oh, this is so dead.
I think the prompts are the thing that you have to kind of get into.
Yeah.
Once you learn how to properly prompt, it's a big unlock. But the time it takes to sit down and fidget and research and understand and learn and apply.
Yeah.
I think that's our hurdle right now. We have to have patience.
I don't have the patience. Not at this time.
Neither do I.
But I should.
Neither do I.
I should.
I have to do.
Yeah.
I need to move. Give me the answer.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. I should. And I definitely think, but anyway, I guess the takeaway is I'm cautiously watching this. I'm still not as sold on the product, but I do believe it's going to become ubiquitous. But I am now looking at the company with a huge side eye because I'm like, well, now we know y'all can't govern shit. So let's hope and pray that humanity doesn't suffer. And when the Netflix special comes out, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be like, tell me exactly what went down. Give us the full rundown.
It's going to be the WeWork version of OpenAI.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be good.
That'll be good.
Yeah. I mean, if someone's not already interviewing and trying to figure out what the hell happened there, then, I mean.
Well, they said they were doing independent review, right?
Yes, it's true. They will.
That was part of the condition of him coming back.
Yeah.
Was that they would do a review because he also wanted to better understand the reasoning behind his being let go.
Well, so there's one final angle I will leave on the table, which I don't think we've got time to dig into, that is where I think the Netflix special is going to come into its own. So two of the board members behind this decision who are no longer there are rumored to be connected to this movement of technologists called Effective Altruists.
That was the Sam...
and it's the same group of people who were influencing Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah, now, because his mom is also in that group.
And if you go read what Effective Altruism is about, it's not, in theory, it's not a bad thing. It's people with money should use their money for good and we should build technology and deploy it into interesting use cases, which is why when you saw FTX, a lot of the money they spent was investing in startups, businesses, donations, sponsoring things that they felt were good. The problem is what gets money boils down to what effective altruists think is worthy of money. And they don't
Yes.
really believe in the government oversight. So it's almost like this idea that smart individuals can work it out better than governments can,
The government.
which is problematic. And then they can be quite dismissive of contrarian opinions. So like for years, she's like a AI researcher, artificial intelligence researcher, Timnit Gebru, has been battling.
You've spoken about it before.
Yeah, she has been battling.
From Google?
She used to be at Google, so she was let go at Google, and there was a whole drama there because of the whole team. And they were, again, the research team, the oversight, the governance. But Timnit is, again, I like her perspective, and so I've been following her for years. Is she right? I don't know, but she certainly provides framing for things that I appreciate. She's been having online battles for years with various effective altruists and like how they view the world and the influence they've been having, because they are at Stanford, Harvard. They're at the institutions that are producing the engineers and the researchers who are doing this. And so she's been very openly critical of them. And I just think it's ironic that we frame what happened with FTX, clearly fraud. The judges have now confirmed that this man is going to go under the jail for what he did. What happened to OpenAI, not fraud, but public, horrific fail.
Something very visible.
And somewhere between the two is this same group of so-called people who kind of have some skin, but not really a lot of skin, but seem to be influencing way too much. And I'm like, who are you? This is the new Illuminati. Who are you? What are you doing? Why are you still popping up?
Who's your head?
Who's your head? Who's in charge? Who's making decisions here? I don't know.
I'll talk to your manager.
Can you please just tell us what you're really trying to do here so that we can know? But
just be honest. Let's just be honest.
Yeah,
let us know.
Exactly. But there you go.
More to come.
More to come
Netflix
indeed.
is on the way.
We've made this show for you, and we want to hear your stories. We have our combined 35 years experience in tech. We have an incredible bank of experts to call on. We are your safe space. So send us your tech challenges and we'll help you create some draft decisions through some real talk.
You've been listening to me, Mamuna Oladipo.
And me, Oyelayo-Pearson.
Edited and produced by me, Michael Bussa, with theme music by 031 Mash.
Email us at help@lostintechpodcast.com or DM us at lostintechpod.